Well, let's jump into something we both watched this week. The first episode of Secret Invasion. What'd you think of that, Marvin?
Yes, sir, my boy. I was about to say the slur he said, but I was thinking maybe I shouldn't say it.
What did he say again? Oh, well, you can technically say it because it's a double entendre, right? Because he's a spy. It's what they call spies back then, or back in the day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's kind of what the joke was, is that it worked on like two levels.
That makes it better. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the S word.
The S word. The hard K.
Fury. Since you've been gone, things have gotten much worse.
So episode 1 of Secret Invasion dropped. We were hyped for the show, I think. You and I.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dusty was too. Yeah, going back to something that I think a lot of MCU fans have been missing, right?
What's that?
Well, we're getting a lot of like multiverse stuff and like magic shit with Doctor Strange and
back to the roots.
All this stuff, but
kinda.
Yeah, but going back to the Earth-based like spy thriller shit, which was established in Captain America: The Winter Soldier,
right?
Which I think is largely considered the best Marvel movie at the end of the day. Like, again, anytime we talk about the best, you have to make the distinction that Endgame and Infinity War are kind of like off in their own category. Because they're the culmination of all this shit. Those movies don't work without the decades-long thing that came before it. So I kind of just throw them aside. And doing that, I mean, it's really between Guardians 1 and Winter Soldier for me as far as the best one. And I think Winter Soldier's probably tops it a little bit because it's like just a very like local spy thriller. Have you seen Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
That movie is so good. Because
I'm not the biggest fan of Captain America, so that gives me a little
podcast is canceled.
Bias to the other side.
Shit. Fuck this. I'm done. I'm out of here. How do you not like Captain America? I don't understand.
Overrated.
Oh my God. Anyhow, I don't even want to get into this with you.
You're in no shape for this fight that lies before us, old friend.
This is personal.
But yeah, so episode 1 was titled Resurrection. Our boy Nick Fury is back in business, baby.
Back on Earth, even.
Yeah, I don't know how caught up you are with like where things have been, but basically, this whole storyline sort of starts with Captain Marvel, which takes place in the 90s, and that was before Nick Fury was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he meets Carol Danvers and learns that there are alien races out there, one of which is the Skrulls, which are these shape-shifting creatures, and they are at war with the Kree, and the Kree is the race of people that Ronan, the villain in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the blue guy, he's like their general, or he's like the Kree general, and basically he's just a genocidal maniac, and he's going around trying to kill the Skrulls, and the Skrulls need a home. So Carol Danvers and Fury, by the end of that film, make them a promise that, like, hey, we'll let you hang out here on Earth and we'll find you a new place. Jump forward to Winter Soldier. Basically, S.H.I.E.L.D. falls and Nick Fury kind of like goes off on his own, does his own thing. Goes into hiding, I guess you could say. And you don't really catch up to him that much anymore after that until really like Endgame, when you see him at Tony's funeral. You don't really know like what he's been up to, and it's not until Spider-Man, there's like a stinger, I forget in which movie, where they show him up in the Sword facility, which is the space station.
Right.
And essentially after what happens with Thanos and stuff, Fury's like, all right, we got to focus on like protecting Earth from like aliens and shit. So that's what he's been up to, and then he gets blipped, obviously. He's a victim, him and Maria Hill. So this is the first time we're seeing this guy back on Earth. He makes a grand entrance, very similar to E.T., some E.T. stuff, and like imagery and Close Encounters.
Yeah, it really was. What was up with his name in the intro?
What do you mean?
It says his name is not Samuel Jackson. It's like Samuel fucking Babatunde or some shit. I don't know. It's like weird.
Wait, what? Are you sure it was him or somebody else?
Dude, I don't know. I don't know, actually.
Babatunde. I don't know.
I wish I had a screenshot.
I don't know what the fuck you're Oh, yeah,
Dude.
no, it's a different character. It's the guy playing Beto. His name is Samuel Adewunme.
Oh, okay.
You were close.
That's it.
But that was close, Marvin. Good for you. I can see the
I thought
confusion.
it was. Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck was going on there.
You got
I
multiple
don't remember
Samuels.
seeing Samuel L. Jackson's name, so that's why I was like, "What is happening? I don't know what's going on."
That's funny. I actually wasn't paying attention to the names. I was paying attention to the imagery in the title sequence because there's actually a bit of a controversy going on because of it.
It was made by AI or something, right?
Yeah, it came out that
so that was real. I thought that was just Twitter trolling.
I think it's real because it's been reported by a couple of, I guess, what I would consider reputable accounts. So
Yeah.
I
That's
don't know.
also why I thought the name was wrong. Like
The AI just fucked it
generated-
up. Well, I mean, listen, people are flipping out because there's these people like, oh, AI is fucking taking our jobs, blah, 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 blah. It's like, listen, I'm a graphic designer and I do motion graphics, and like, AI is not taking our jobs, bro. Like, there's the human element that is still involved. And there's been,
at least for now.
I had this conversation recently with another friend of mine, a graphic designer friend of mine, who we were talking, and it's like, there's this argument that, because there's a lot of people on Twitter that are saying they are AI artists. And people seem to take issue with that terminology, meaning like you can't be an artist unless you're physically like making the shit. And it's like,
Nah, that's the same shit as like when people started making music or producing music 100% from like a computer.
right.
Like you don't have to have a full band playing every note and all
Right.
this.
I mean, a large part of the art is the creativity factor of it. And there are some people who are very creative that just don't have the technical skills or know how to, put those creations to paper or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't really think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think my job is in jeopardy. And I actually thought it was a cool thing to do because the nature of this show is that you don't know who's what. Like,
Yeah, that's what I was. At first, I was telling you, it was like, oh, this is going to be like a whodunit. But I was like, nah, this is more like The Thing. Like, this is definitely like.
it's a spy thriller mixed with like The Thing. Yeah. And I thought that getting AI to make it is actually really interesting because AI can only do so much. And a lot of times, because you made a couple of images with AI.
Yeah.
I've made some images with AI. And it's always like, it's actually pretty off-putting. It's like that, what's that term that people use? The uncanny valley.
Mm.
And AI images always have like elements of realism, but then there's always like little things that are like off about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I actually find that really cool. There's an account that I follow on Twitter called This Person's Not Real, and it's AI images. And when you look at the images closely, at first glance, they just look like real people. But when you actually really like look and analyze the picture, there's always
like
some stuff
glitch.
that's
like a Picasso fucking
yes.
type glitch.
Yep, there's stuff that's off, and it's really weird.
Yeah.
And that's how this intro is. It's like everything's blurred, and like they're vague images of things that we know from real life, like London and all this stuff. I actually thought it looked really cool, and I thought it serves the plot of the show really well. So I feel like people just are always going to find something to complain about. That's obviously no secret.
Sure.
But yeah, so this episode establishes Fury's got to come back to Earth because there's some fucking stuff that's going on. There's a group of young and disgruntled Skrulls that are basically saying like, yo, you guys promised to give us a home. We've been stuck here for decades.
The cause.
Nobody's doing anything. We're just going to make this bitch our home. Fuck you guys.
Fuck it.
And they're using their shape-shifting abilities to basically establish themselves in all levels of government and power structures and stuff all over the world. They're basically doing like a chain of terrorist attacks to try to destabilize the governments of the world so they could then insert themselves into that.
I didn't understand like why they're wanting to completely take over. They don't want to try to coexist.
No, because they feel like they can't be themselves, right? Because remember their password is whatever. Like, what was the password when he went to the facility? That guy, he's like, in my skin or something. He said something along those lines. So, like, they feel like they can't be themselves here. Rightfully so. I mean, humans on Earth, every interaction that they've had with aliens in this universe has been fucking a disaster. There was the Battle of New York and Avengers, and fucking Thanos came to town and fucking wiped out half the fucking life in the universe. So it's like you can't blame him, right?
Prejudice against aliens.
Yeah. And because you can't trust nobody, Fury forms a small team of his closest confidants, which is Maria Hill, longtime right-hand woman of Nick Fury, and Talos, who he's had a relationship with clearly all these years. We learn that Talos' wife has been killed at the hands of the terrorist leader, who is Gravik, played by Kingsley Ben Adir. And we learned that Amelia Clark's character, Gaia, she's the daughter of Talos, older than we last saw her in Captain Marvel. She's working for Gravik, and she's maybe kind of like playing both sides of the fence. We learned that.
Right. Yeah.
We learned that Gravik may or may not have killed Talos' wife and her mom. So there's a lot of like questions still lingering. Obviously, it was one episode. But there was a big reveal right in the beginning of the episode. Martin Freeman, who plays Agent Everett Ross, who we've seen him in Black Panther. I think he was in Civil War, but I can't remember. I think he was in Civil War because he was helping capture Winter Soldier in Civil War. So, but he's been around. He's Agent Everett Ross, but it was revealed that he's one of the Skrull that's part of this fucking terrorist group. In the comic books, they seem to be doing a very different version of it from the comic books. But in the comics, every motherfucker was a Skrull. Fucking Tony Stark was a Skrull. Fucking everybody.
Right.
And it ultimately leads into the Secret Wars, which is, as you know, the movie that may or may not be coming out now. We'll see what happens with that.
Right.
But it's one of like the sparks that leads to that. But in the comic books, like, you don't know who to fucking trust. And here's the same thing. And now they're showing us like, hey, this guy you knew, he was a fucking Skrull this whole time. So it's like, how long was he a Skrull? What was his objectives if he was a Skrull this whole time? So there's going to be a lot of that stuff. And I already see the speculation going on online. I'm already speculating myself.
And
get
deep.
But I thought it was a great episode.
For sure.
It really establishes what the show is going to be, like the tone of the show. And I'm fucking here for it, baby, because this is when, like, I think Marvel has been at its best when it was these smaller, like, Earth-based stories for the most part. Yeah, love Thor, love the Guardians, love all this stuff, but like, there's just something about these spy thrillers, man. They're great.
Where are the Avengers? This war is one I have to fight. Alone. You're the most wanted man on the planet.
Major death in the first episode too. That they really set the tone. They let you know they ain't
major death. Spoiler alert! If you haven't watched it yet, close your ears now. Maria Hill fucking dies at the end. She gets shot in the fucking stomach by Gravik, who had taken the shape of Nick Fury, and it's actually heartbreaking because her last breath, she thinks it was Fury.
She still, that was sad.
And they foreshadowed it a little bit, and I'm upset that I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't catch it at all because that scene earlier in the episode where they're playing chess, and she's saying to him, like, maybe you're not up to the task anymore, man. Like, you're old. He's limping in this episode. He's fucking got his eye patch off and all this shit.
Right.
He's clearly questioning like his place in the world post Avengers and Blip and all that shit. I think he's lost faith maybe in the system. With that, we know. I think he's lost faith in maybe the heroes because he saw, obviously they won ultimately in Endgame, but at what cost, right? 5 years went by and people like lost stuff. So I think he's got a lot of legitimate questions in his head, but she foreshadows this and she's like, yo, you might not be up to the task. And if you're not, like, people could get hurt. And lo and behold, she gets hurt. But I think this is a bit of a red herring because the Nick Fury that I know, he's always fucking 10 steps ahead of everybody. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
This fucking man wore an eye patch for his whole life, specifically to hide the fact that he used his fucking bum eye as a failsafe in the event that S.H.I.E.L.D. was ever infiltrated by bad parties. And that's what happened at the end of fucking Winter Soldier. I don't know if you remember, but, Hydra's fucking taking over the whole shit, and then you think everything's lost, and he's like, I got a failsafe, motherfucker. I still got control. So this guy, like, he's not some fucking feeble old man who doesn't know what's going on. Like, I think he's just putting on a show. I think he wants people to think he's weaker than he actually is to expose motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying?
I hope so. Yeah. I don't want to see him.
Yeah.
Weak for sure.
But yeah, I mean, this episode was great. Again, really sets the tone for I think where the show's gonna go. I'm excited to watch the rest of it. And like, who doesn't fucking love Samuel L. Jackson? He's like the GOAT, really.
Yeah.
You know?
It really is.
And Fury has always been a great character, but we've never really seen him in a leading role like this. He's always just kind of been behind the scenes, pulling the strings, getting the team together, you know? So it's really cool. We're going to get to see like a nice deep dive into Fury and like who he is and what he's up to and what he's all about. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm on board for it. I'm hyped for the remaining episodes.
Me too. What's the air date again? Wednesdays?
I think Wednesdays, yeah. Just a little speculation. I think Don Cheadle's probably going to end up, I think Rhodey's going to end up being a Skrull.
Yeah.
Because I think he's the Secretary of State right now, if I had to guess, because that was Thunderbolt Ross's job. No, Secretary of Defense, I'm sorry. But he could also just be like a what's the word? Consultant, you know, for the government. But we'll see. A lot of cool stuff. There could be a lot of big reveals. I don't actually think, though, that they're going to do some sort of crazy shit where it's like, oh, yeah, Tony Stark was a Skrull the whole time. I don't think they're going to do anything to, like, erase, like, what has happened.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I also think that'd be lame if they did that.
Yeah, it would.
In this world where, like, Tony's dead.
Could they do something like where Fury is a Skrull all along?
That, I speculated that with Ed. Shout out to Ed.
Shout out.
And he was like, oh, that'd be interesting. But I don't know. I feel like Talos could suss out one of his own. So, like,
yeah,
I saw a theory online that Talos is actually the one pulling the strings for the terrorists, which would be an interesting twist because this whole time we've been thinking he was a good guy on Fury's side. So that would be a nice gut punch, you know, if they did something like that.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.